All right, let's talk a little bit more about how we train our Tai Chi using the Beijing 24 and classical Yang style principles. In the other video that we did, we talked about how we use empty full, advanced retreat, turning the body to get ourselves moving. And that's kind of the start of the process in Tai Chi, because we're going from stillness to motion. But then once we get the body moving, how do we go from motion to technique, okay? Motion to skill, turning a push into a ward off. This is really the first skill that we're looking to create, the first transformation. This is what I'll use this sort of language, Hua Jian in Chinese, which means sort of transformative force or to transfer force. We're taking the idea of advancing, the idea of pushing, and now we're going to change it into something more refined. Ward off. Now, ward off, in the beginning, we want to connect to it from the outside and the inside, right from the beginning. We don't want to just think my outside of my arm is coming out here. We want to make sure that we're also perceiving this inside space. So I don't start just teaching ward off. What we do is we have a process of working from push to ward off, okay? So we use our ocean stepping to do this. Here, I find a nice push, relax, move through my ocean stepping, find advance, retreat, turn the body, advance, retreat, and we work on how to push correctly. So how do we want to push correctly? As I push, I want to make sure that I keep good vertical alignment and that my hips don't drift away from my hands, or my shoulders don't drift away from my hips. As I move forward, I can keep this gentle push moving forward, and I don't overextend. And it's our ocean stepping, if you've studied our ocean stepping, where we move forward, but we don't fill completely and learn to push back and hit the brakes. It is those brakes that help us find the natural end point of our push. So you can see in this position right here, I found the natural end point of my push. I haven't gone too far. At this point, I've completely emptied my back leg. I'm no longer pushing, I'm taking a walk, okay? So I come here and I've found the natural end point, and I should be able to relax and find a gentle arm swing, like our arm swings we practice in our warm-ups. We push, you can release it, continue on, try to lift, staying close to the body, T-Rex arms, push, release. If you drop the arms and your head goes, you were too far forward, right? If you're here and you drop your arms, that was too far forward. Here, drop the arms. Proper position, hips underneath, behind the hands. So working this basic push before we do any other techniques, what this does is it gets us into the mechanics of advancing and retreating and connecting them to a skill. Pushing is a skill, and it's something we can all relate to that's not necessarily martially connected, right? If you've had to push your car, if you've had to push a dolly, push a refrigerator, these kind of things are all within our experience, and this is full body push. And so if you can imagine yourself somebody pushing a car. I don't have a car here to push, but maybe we'll get that done one of these days. You get into the push. What most people do is when they make contact with the car, they readjust and then push forward. But the real power comes if you're here making connection in this space and you drive forward from your center. That's hip drive. When we're pushing inanimate objects, we don't get the feedback necessary. But when you're working with living things, people, or even animals, things like animal husbandry gives great feedback on how the body moves naturally. You need this constant drive and connection so that you don't get pushed forward, so you don't retreat when you're trying to advance. And so this is why working our push is so important. So we work our push changing the sense of advance and retreat and adding in push, connecting out from the shoulders. Now, a way you can work even with this is use a stick. As I go out, feel the stick extend out, right? Do a little motion at your wrist. See how that changes what's at your shoulders. And then you can drop it down, lift it up, push it out. And use the sense of extension in the arms to create that position, right? So you feel where you're at the end of your stance. You can draw it in and out. Okay? So this practice, working through this push, using ocean stepping, connecting it to advance, retreat, turn left, turn right, these kind of concepts, prepares us for the getting into the skills of the upper body in Tai Chi, which we need. And when we say skills of the upper body, we mean this is where it's being expressed. We want it coming through the whole shape, obviously. But the first one is peng. Peng is oftentimes translated as ward off, but remember, when we're drawing from Chinese, it is idiomatic, it is symbolic. It's meant to be studied, so let's not get too caught in the specific definitions. Let's get into the concepts. Ward off, imagine a shield wall. You're here, and you've got your shield, and you're holding it in front of you to keep people at bay, right? This is a good skill to have if you're in trouble, several hundred years ago. And if you had to use both hands to push and keep your shield, well, you don't have anything else left to protect yourself with, right? So if you could use one hand and hold your shield and the other hand becomes free, right? Then that's very useful. You're gonna have more options if you get in trouble. And so this is how we take the concept of push, feeling this clear line that we can then take and turn into a good, clean, ward-off position here. And then we can move from that ward-off position, find a nice push. And there's a nice, really solid ward-off using those concepts because you're gonna be able to feel them. You're gonna be able to feel how they work in the body. Now, is that the only expression of ward-off? No, but that develops a strong external representation of the shape that is built out from our internal principles. Once you've created that, you can begin to look at what's happening inside that space and work a little bit more expressively within your movement, intentionally within your movement. And we can get beyond just the physical techniques into those energies. And that is the core of Tai Chi. The beginning of Tai Chi was a study of the energies within a whole bunch of movements, not locking in the specific form. Now the form has to be functional and has to keep the body healthy and safe, which is why we look at it in the way we do. We find all these concepts, we connect it to things like pushing a person or working with a living thing, because that really gives good feedback into the body. So this is how we use a really simple concept to take our Tai Chi to another level. We use empty, full, advance, retreat, turn left, turn right to go from stillness into a sense of motion. And then we use this first concept of pushing something with our full body that we all have, and we feel how that can change into ward off. And then within that process, there are tons of mechanics, tons of principles we can learn to study, express, and then also the qualities that are a little bit harder to put our finger on sometimes. Song, softening, Zhong Ding, central equilibrium, Dui La, opposing pools, these kind of concepts that are more personal, to be honest. There's things that we want to build within our practice and have a personal relationship with. And so that's why understanding the method and the mechanics of our movement and motion is so helpful. So that's a little bit more about how we train our Tai Chi in the Rooted Alchemy community. We use our Beijing 24 to really study these basic Yang style principles. And then in other areas, we can take them forward to our Chin style practice, which is interesting because Chin style is not a forward practice, it's the root of Tai Chi. But in the concept of evolving our practice, it does represent another layer. So once again, thanks for watching and enjoy your practice, and I'll see you next time.